the heads up that while we're live, people that are saying hi or checking in or things like that, I may pop it up on the screen so that you guys can see it and all the other viewers and listeners can kind of see it. And then this is going to obviously be live, but then the video will be available for anybody to rewatch it as well.
Cool. Sweet.
All right, we got the banner going. We got the comments up. I'm going to hit record here. Oop. That was yours? All right. So see if people start hopping on here, and I'm just going to share this out. I'll tell you I'm probably going to say it again on the show, but that little Beermkr owners group on Facebook is just such like a great community of people that are just, it's just all good people, man. Everybody's trying to help each other out. And
it's a really awesome little group. Yeah. No, we're really happy the direction they've gone to. It's fun.
Yeah.
Aaron's camera is better than ours, I think. I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah. We need to get that level of photography equipment. All right, let's get this thing shared out. Share to.
Make sure the phone is on silent.
Yeah, that's a good thing too. Silence the phone.
Yeah, good.
See how many people check in from the Beermkr group. I wonder if anybody will. Urban Games. And just on my own. All right, I think we are out there enough. Are you guys ready to start a podcast?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do
it.
You should probably not use that as an intro.
Are you guys ready?
All
right, here we go. I'm going to hit the record button.
Did you hit record on this, John?
Yeah, this is already going. Numbers are red. I think we're ready. Let's go.
The following is a Just Green production brought to you by the Might Be News Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Might Be Brews, episode, 53, I think we're at now.
Sure, 53, 54. We're in the 50s.
But we are the podcast where we explore the people, places, and brews of the craft beer world. My name is John. With me, as always, Mr. Steve. How you doing tonight?
I've got a very important question.
Okay.
Toaster or toaster oven?
Toaster oven all day.
Toaster oven.
Toaster oven.
Aaron, toaster or toaster oven?
No question, toaster oven.
Brett?
I don't know. I'm running out of space. I've been hitting a toaster pretty hard for years now.
All right. I'm a toaster guy. The wife wants a toaster oven. I need somebody to sell me on the toaster oven.
Okay. We can talk about it, man.
I want to get into
cheese.
Yeah, reheating pizzas so it doesn't goop down.
I have an oven. I start the oven.
Okay. Yeah. We can get into that for sure. But I've got all kinds of opinions, actually. But let's introduce our guests real quick. You guys have seen me been posting online like crazy. I am falling in love with this Beermkr countertop automated brew system. It's amazing. So I'm really lucky that we're going to have the people behind the system, behind Beermkr, on the show with us today. So first off, let's introduce Aaron. Aaron, how you doing today?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much. Aaron, you are the founder. Is that right?
One of them, yes. We have
one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
And Brett down there. Brett, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you again for being on the show and helping coordinate all this. Brett, what is your title? I don't know if I've seen a title anywhere.
It's marketing, sales, shooting all the videos of myself in my kitchen. It's that.
Nice. Well, yeah, we really appreciate it and everything you guys are doing. Real quick, guys, make sure you check out the brand new mbnnetwork.com. It's never been easier to find your new favorite podcast. Also, help us make the show bigger and better than ever before. Become a patron on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/mbnnetwork. Sign up to get bonus episodes and entered into monthly giveaways and extra content. Shout out to our sponsors, Eunomia CBD. That's eunomiacbd.com. Use promo code NBN. Get 20% off, free shipping, and a free gift. And our newest sponsor, Linode.com. If you need cloud computing, which, Aaron, maybe you will, But accelerate, innovate with Linode's simple, affordable, and accessible Linux cloud solutions and services. Go to linode.com/MBN, create an account, and get a $100 credit. So thank you guys for letting me get through that. But so first off, when we have a new guest on the show and we're getting to know them a little bit, I like to find out what their craft beer background is. So I'll start with you, Aaron. Do you remember like what that gateway beer was that really got you into craft beer and then maybe got you into home brewing and things like that?
Yeah. I was I was 18 and just graduated high school, and I bought a 250cc scooter in Scotland, and it was like a $200, $300, something. It was a total POS, but I just I just scootered all around. The thing went like 60 miles an hour. It's terrifying, but and that was the first place I got to actually drink good beer. Well, aside from the fact that I was 18 and then in the States and wasn't legally allowed to drink anything, so I would have access to Red Dog or something over at a friend's party.
Right.
So I go to Europe, and drinking age is lower, and I just discovered this amazing array of beers, like Scottish beers. Went to Ireland, tasted Guinness for the first time, and it was that where I realized, like, oh my God, there's a lot here. Came back to the States, and then I was sad with the lack of options at the time. This was back in living in Georgia in early 2000s. Like, we still it was illegal to sell beer above, I think, 5% in Georgia at the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was crazy. So you come back and you're like, cool, we have Bud. And the only way to get good beer is to make it. So, I started brewing, and, 15 plus years later, here we are. I've been a pretty avid home brewer, love craft beer, obviously. And, it's been a life route that I'm very happy I found myself on.
Yeah, I bet it probably turned you into, it became a career.
Yeah.
Do you still have the scooter?
No? I broke down 3 weeks into my trip. And it was like north of Edinburgh, and like I broke down in the middle of nowhere, had it towed in. It was really sad. I ended up selling it for like maybe 100 pounds.
What do they call it when you're riding a scooter? Scooting? Mopeding?
I'm not sure.
I would just call it like riding or cruising.
I
would try to fit it in somewhere so somebody might think I was on a chopper.
I would be so dangerous on the scooter.
I hear you, dude. My old boss, he had a Honda that went like, it was one gear. You just brought it back, but it would go 60. Woo. And it looked like an R6 or an R1 coming at you head on, like a nice expensive bike.
And then it comes past you.
Yeah, and then you're sitting on it like this, but
I think that was my bike. It was a Honda 250.
Nice. Brett, what about you? What's your craft beer background?
No, so mine's a little bit different. So I'm not going to pretend to be a home brewing expert or anything for that matter. I grew up liking beer, and when I met Aaron's the one who got me into home brewing, honestly. But I first started getting into craft beer when Aaron and I met at Cornell, but I was there a little earlier, and so locally there was like Saranac. Once I had graduated from maybe call it sophomore year, crushing cases of Natty Light or whatever it is. He moved into like something brown. Then we got Saranac, and then in Ithaca, there's it's Ithaca Brewery, and they've got like Flower Power and Cascazilla and all these awesome beers. So I used to go there, fill up growlers, and it was just like a garage on the side of the highway. So it was really cool. And now they have a big old shop, but that's kind of where it started. And then I don't know, been in California and Colorado most of my life, so have been some pretty nice beers. The Racer 5 is my wedding beer. Like, it's just all good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to hear how people get into it a little bit differently. As far as what their background is. So I want to talk quickly about how I came across Beermkr, because me personally, obviously craft beer fan, Mr. Steve and I, we used to host bottle shares, and I've like home brewed with people, but never really took it on myself, because it's like you see all the equipment, you see the cleaning that goes into it, you see all of these things and it's like, I don't have the space or the time for this burner. I don't have an 8-hour brew day. And, I've seen some other smaller, quick, extract brewing systems or whatever, and things that try to expand on it. But when I saw this one and being an all grain and customizable, I mean, I felt like that was just a game changer to be able to brew these small batch systems and to be able to do it this way. And then as I got into it and started actually brewing beers, I'm like, man, this thing is really incredible. So I really want to get down to like how what's going on inside that machine and kind of break down the different parts and systems to it. But to start, Aaron, if I understand it correctly, a little bit of research that I did Beermkr come out of the brew jacket? Was that kind of like your first, do I call it an invention, and then it kind of turned into eventually the Beermkr?
Yeah. So Brew Jacket originally spawned in Atlanta, Georgia. I just graduated from college. I was working my first job, brewing a lot of beer, and I couldn't brew for about 6 months out of the year because Atlanta is so hot. So I had a teeny little window AC unit that could maybe keep my house to about 80 degrees. So most beer styles I couldn't brew. So I began working on like how to control for that. How do I get in a 500 square foot apartment in an incredibly hot environment? Like how do I continue to make beer? And began messing around with solid state heat exchange technology, and kind of ran into a wall pretty quickly. My background is in economics. I love beer, so I was just kind of messing with it, and I got something that somewhat worked, and ended up tabling it for a little bit. And as I kept brewing beer using iterations of this, but it really wasn't until I got up to grad school and met my other co-founders, Brett included. We were there for our grad degrees. I met Matt Goff and Evgeny Tichenko. Both of them they're incredible engineers. They were in the biomedical engineering department. Matt was getting his PhD, and we met in an entrepreneurship class, and I had this thing, and I was like, yeah, this helps me make better beer. And he looks at it, and he's like, wow, it's something, but yeah, we can definitely do better. And then it was really at that point that, when Matt and Evgeny came in, we actually were able to create a product that is the Brew Jacket. It ended up becoming the Brew Jacket immersion after a couple of Kickstarter campaigns. We built this thing that allows space-constrained homebrewers to create lager-style beers without refrigeration. So that was the big deal, right? You can lager in your closet without buying a fridge. And then Immersion kind of evolved into the Immersion Pro. We added additional features to it. It allows you to heat. So now it really becomes this incredibly versatile unit. And started seeing like really big pickup on this thing, big yeast laboratories across the United States.
Not just brewers, just being used industrially and things like that.
Exactly. A bunch of breweries in Colorado have picked up fleets of it. Like, we've had universities like across the world buy, dozens of them for their brewing labs and brewing programs. So we really began to realize like, man, this thing is solving some serious problems for people.
Yeah.
And in the core of that is this heat exchange technology that maintains an incredibly precise temperature for fermentation. And solid state thermoelectrics is not a good technology to use for mass refrigeration. It's just not efficient. It's not great at that. But what it's really good at is making a very small volume of liquid exactly one temperature. And it can be within like a couple tenths of a degree. So it's perfect for low volume fermentation. And so seeing how widely adapted this thing was in the industry, we knew that there was a big space for people who haven't yet made beer. One of the big reasons people don't make beer is because it's incredibly complicated. and fermentation control is a huge piece of that. So we thought, like, all right, so if we can take this core technology that we've developed with the brew jacket immersion, could we make a more, let's call it, general beer lover friendly version and try to bridge that gap? Try to bring more beer lovers into the brewing space, because there's so many of these hangups that people have when it comes to making beer, and complexity, risk, all of the amount of equipment. So those are different things, but it's really the complexity piece that the brew jacket immersion is solving. And you can have exactly the right temperature for your yeast. And then we just began building out the other systems that ultimately became Beermkr. But yeah, really the heart of it was that brew jacket immersion.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I was always like, I guess, immediately impressed by, because I have a little bit of HVAC background, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is like a little mini heat pump. There's got to be something going on in here, and I don't know if it's like some kind of refrigeration, or if you've got, I don't know how that thing works, if it's like 410 or any type of like, something like that going on. But and then one of the other things I noticed right away about just the design of it was that cutout in the back, for the airflow. You know how important that is. Because I'm thinking to myself, like, this thing can't be right up against the wall. And then when you get it out of the box and look at it, you're like, oh, that problem's solved right off the bat. But it makes me wonder, how many versions, have you been through where you're like, okay, I think we solved this, and then you use it and brew a couple beers, and you're like, nope, that's got to change.
Just ask our Kickstarter backers how long it took us to deliver this thing.
Yeah, it's like, what year is it now?
Yeah,
we've been at this for a while. Hundreds of iterations, hundreds. And it's not just of the heat exchange system. I mean, we spent a lot of time adapting it, but the various footprints, plastic encasings, the way the squeeze bar comes in and moves your fluid level up and down, like thousands upon thousands of iterations.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit, because if we start at the top and the brew tub and the brew basket.
Mm-hmm.
So, what goes into that, like, design, as far as, there's, I don't know, there's so many things we can talk about, but as far as just that basket itself, is it pitched in a certain way? The little cutout in the back, what is the little barb in the back? Is that a sensor?
Yeah. So the barb is a CO2 inlet. So that collects all of the CO2 that the yeast are producing, and it routes it through a pressure system. And so we know exactly what the pressure is inside the system, and you can see it increase. It's tracked on our server. When it gets to a certain pressure, there's a solenoid valve that releases, and we're able. Yeah, the little
Yep.
Exactly. And then so it will release every. At the beginning of fermentation, going through the lag phase, it'll maybe go from, at once every 30 minutes to an hour, and then it will slowly get closer to once a minute, and then it'll be once every 10 seconds. And you can hear that CO2 just really moving out of there.
Yep.
That is really neat. So we actually track the intensity of that CO2 release, and that plays a critical role in how essentially the brew jacket immersion side of it will then adjust your temperature based on the yeast profile that you've chosen. So if you're using, let's call it, a Chico strain, you'll be able to set the primary fermentation to 67 degrees, and then so as it's in, as it sees the amount of CO2 releases increase, it will take it from your lag phase up to your primary fermentation temperature. And then as it sees those checks decrease, it will then move it up to another temperature, up to your rest temperature. And you have complete control over all that stuff. So to come back to your original question, the barb connects into the CO2.
So what made you come up with how long did it take to come up with a beer bag that, like, the bag was the way to go?
The bag we actually came out with, or we came upon very early in the process, because it solved a core problem with with beer brewing in general. The concept was, or at least the problem that we were solving was, traditional brewing. You're boiling in a kettle, you're then transferring to a fermenter. You have to sanitize that fermenter. You have to make sure it's perfectly clean. You make sure there aren't scratches on the interior surface where bacteria can get harder. And then you have to put that through fermentation. You have to temperature control it somehow, some way. And then you've got to clarify it, right? So you can do a cold crash. You can do, things like Brewer's Clarex. You can do other sorts of additives to it. You can also transfer that off into a secondary fermenter, which you're going to have to sanitize out your tubing, sanitize that next fermenter, let that settle out, and then you're going to have to do the whole process again when you're packaging. So the core, one of the core values we wanted to have as a product is never having to transfer the beer, never letting that super valuable, highly sensitive fermented product touch oxygen or bacteria. Right. So as a beginning brewer, even a seasoned one, I mean, it's annoying. You have to go through all these, problems. Like you have to purge out all of your containers with CO2. You've got a bunch of cleaning and sanitizing. So we're trying to eliminate that headache and make it really easy for brand new brewers to get into it, make an incredible beer the very first time they brew. So having it be a singular vessel made all of the sense to us, and we really liked the bag idea because the bags are, they're inexpensive to create, and we can change the volume of the bag, whereas you can't change a volume of a solid container. So, and why that's so important is pumps are expensive, they're a pain and a hassle to clean, and they can break. So when we're creating a product, we want it to be as simple and as easy to use as possible. So pulling pumps out of that design engineering allows us to do that. And putting a bag in, it seems really simple, right? You use a bag, and then we have a little squeeze bar. You put the squeeze bar in, and now all the liquid is up top in the brewing chamber. You pull that squeeze bar out, and the liquid falls back down into the bag for fermentation. So after we began experimenting with the concept, it became clear that was the way to go.
Sure.
It's funny, a lot of the talk has come around to temperature because in my limited homebrew experience, we did the whole guys on our cul-de-sac all went on the equipment. We had the turkey burner, the big pot. Yeah. And the first brew we did wasn't bad. It was okay. It was acceptable. The second one we did was an Imperial Brown Ale, and it was wretched. Yeah. And for us to go through that 2.5 hour process to come out with 5 gallons of beer that wasn't good was pretty heartbreaking. Yeah. I believe it. We kind of figured out that it was temperature because the guy had stored the carboy up in his kid's bathroom closet. And it was probably fermenting at like 85 degrees. It was the middle of summer. And that's what gave us all these off flavors. And hearing you talk about the beer jacket, it's just like, man, that's what we needed. Yep. Because that's a such overlooked process. Sure. Like why would you think, oh, I'm seeing bubbles, it's fermenting. That temperature level can really screw some stuff up for it.
Huge. It's absolutely huge. The happy yeast come from, happy yeast make really good beer. And if you keep them happy, they're going to be making really great beer for you. Sorry, I just saw this one is the 1 barrel version coming to the market. Hopefully very soon.
Yeah, we just need to sell a bunch of these first.
You were talking about different size bags. Do you foresee that and I guess I never really put much thought into it, but is there enough room in the current system to use a different size bag?
It's tough because we're really tied to the beer tap. And, changing the size of the bag would mean different size beer tap. My
beer tap's right here next to me. I did an IPA that I just tapped 2 days ago.
That's what we're
sipping on here.
I'm doing the Citra Smash. Yeah.
Nice.
So this one's the Redwood, and Redwood was the first one that I did. And I had a lot of like sediment in the first couple pours, right? and it kind of turned me off at first, but then after that, when it cleared up, started coming out of the beer tap nice and clear. I just loved that beer, and I was trying to think of ways and seeing ideas of what people were doing online, and I'll just tell you guys what I did to try to add a little of my own flair to it. But I put I don't know, I want to say maybe like 6 tablespoons of honey in with the water that went in before the grain, right? And I literally have no homebrew experience, so I'm just thinking to myself, like, maybe some extra sugar going into that initial water is going to maybe help the ABV a little bit, or maybe change the mouthfeel a little bit. Maybe we'll see. And then I just added in, I think, an extra pack of flaked oats, and I think I exchanged some of the hops and added in Mosaic.
Nice.
Because I like Mosaic, so I did some Mosaic steam hop and then some Mosaic dry hop.
But I mean, that's literally how easy. That's like how easy it is. Like I came into this not brewing, and I'll be up in my kitchen doing a photo shoot, and so I'll have a bunch of grains sitting around, and what I'll just do is I'll dump them into Beermkr. I'll kind of say like, okay, this much ish 2-row, bunch of these hops, save some for dry hop later, and like at the very least, I'm getting beer out of the other end. Is it a perfect beer? I don't know. Like, is it exactly what I wanted? But the fact that I can just throw these ingredients in and get beer out the other end, I personally just find I still am kind of blown away that works.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Is when the first beer came out, and I'm like, this is really good, and I can make it better. You know what I mean? And I don't know. There's so much that I didn't even put into it, or thought that I didn't put into it. Like, I used RO water on the first one, and I could have changed that out for something, that actually some spring water or something like that. That could have changed things, or worked on a water profile, and then just kind of like adapt it to find, like, that's what I'm really starting to find out is maybe there's yeast strains that I like more, and there's certain hops that I like more, and if I add this into the beer, it'll give it that something else that I'm looking for. So I'm able to easily, experiment and explore and find what I like and turn around another beer in 10 days.
Right. As someone who didn't brew a lot, but just liked beer, like I never really tried to think about those specific ingredients that might be making each beer one beer or the other. And so, like, I'm brewing Smash series right now. I have 2 machines in my basement. I'm going head-to-head Smash, Citra, Centennial, Cascade, and I can kind of dive into those ingredients. I'm like, what is this hop bringing to the table? So next time, I go to the beer store and make another beer, I can really decide on what I really like best and start crafting my my recipe for that.
I have to bring up Randall's comment.
People,
future with
the stuff people just throw in there, man.
Yeah. That's what's really cool, man. The stout that I have, we're gonna crack we'll pour some stout here in a minute. I put maple syrup in with the water too, just trying to add that extra sugar in pre-fermentation, and having fun with it. But I don't know tell us about steam hops, because is that something that, if I understand correctly, did you guys help develop that? Is that your product?
Yeah, we did. We were, we had a lot of help, obviously, with it. But the challenge with steam hops is, or at least with Beermkr, is one of the core pieces, right? Is these, in terms of complexity, engineering complexity, user experience complexity, is how do you manage all of these hops that are getting into your beer? If you look at all these other countertop brewers, are really 2 or 3. They all have at maximum 4 hop additions, and those hop additions, they're these mechanical pieces. They're either silos where you put your hops in, or honestly, they're just silos, and you have to manage them, program in how you're going to be using those particular hop additions. So if you're doing a DIY brew, it's going to be very complicated to produce it. It's not one of these things where you can just throw it in the morning and then go to work. You actually have to spend a lot of time setting up with these other systems. So again, to reduce the complexity and also to eliminate the boil, which is, again, another engineering complexity, we opted to go the steam hop route in this, and where we produce in the machine, it produces pasteurized wort that is, it's perfect wort. And when you get it out the back end, you ferment that, and then putting the steam hops in with the yeast allows you to get the same hop profile, both from an oil and from a bitterness perspective, as you would had those hops gone through a boil in your wort. So that was huge for us, because our goal is to create a system that obviously anybody can use. So by putting these additional machine complexities into it, it would have increased the machine cost exponentially, and shut off a lot of people who could potentially participate. And it would also make the process a lot more complicated. And so all of those things, when we were evaluating this, we're like, we think we can make this work without going the boil if we are, using this steam hop product. So it took a lot of, essentially testing on our side to make sure things were working. But, once we figured it out, we're like, holy crap, this thing is, it works.
I think with traditional homebrewers, one of the first things that I get from them when I'm describing how the system works is they can't wrap their head around a 24-hour mash-in.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I was getting at is like, if somebody says, I don't understand how you could be achieving the same effect over 24 hours instead of doing the traditional 1 hour boil or whatever it might be, what would you say to somebody that has that question?
I would say they should try it. And mostly,
Aaron just needs a 45-minute conversation with every skeptic, and we're good to go.
Right.
Hopefully this serves that purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a great question. It's one that we had, initially. Yeah. And you get a lot of things by skipping the boil. First you get higher efficiency. We're able to consistently crank out 80% sugar conversion, which is huge. For a home brewing system, you're usually stuck somewhere in the low 70s, upper 60s. And like I had a great rim system that I built, and like consistently like mid 60s for efficiency in it, and then my water would be all over the place. Obviously, I didn't do a good job building it, but that's neither here nor there. This longer mash achieves a lot of things. So we are able to hit all of the enzyme steps along the way. So we can do protein rests. We do the saccharification rest. We get up to this, essentially this pasteurization temperature where we lock everything out of the beer, kill everything, and it's sealed. And then it falls down in temperature and gets ready for pitch. The interesting thing about this is, we're beneath the point of, the temperature where you get astringency. So you really don't get astringency with this thing because we're not getting up to 170, 180, 190. We're keeping it at about 165 as the max. Likewise, dimethyl sulfide's not an issue either because we're keeping it at 165. SMM, so S-methylmethionine, is a dimethyl sulfide precursor, and all grain, all vegetal matter has it. It begins to convert into dimethyl sulfide when you get up to those boil temperatures. So we're keeping the temperature below that SMM to DMS conversion temperature. So the half-life of SMM at the maximum temperature we have in the machine is around 1,000 hours. So by not even getting into the DMS conversion zone, we're able to just eliminate that entirely as an issue in the machine.
And actually, like, it doesn't really need to take 24 hours. We've been talking through a bunch of shortcuts of how to speed it up. Sure. But the other thing that we're working with is, like, say you start a brew in the morning before work, you're pitching yeast tomorrow before you go to work. Yeah. And so so there's two things. There's one is like, how fast does it actually need to go, or how long does it actually take? And then the next one is, do we also want to give people the option to speed it up? Because there's something nice about just like, I started at 4 p.m, next day 4 p.m, I do it, and we're moving on.
Let's talk about your kits for a little bit, just because I don't know if we did a very good job of telling people really what's going on that don't know what this is.
Sure.
So
That's a good point.
we kind of jumped right into the deep
Beer.
end there.
Yeah.
And I'll ask this question, and I don't want to make it sound offensive. If it's offensive, tell me, and I won't ask it. But I can't ask it because I already asked it. Huh?
Try me.
Let's just dive right in.
The thing I hear the most is it's like a Keurig for beer.
Yeah.
Are we
It's
good with that?
easy.
Is that a good
honestly,
description for you guys?
Sure. Because it, yeah, I mean, Aaron, this is where Aaron and I go back and forth, because Aaron is the true beer nerd, as you can tell. I am less of that. And so we go back and forth on this. But the Keurig of beer, what does that mean? It makes good coffee, and it does it easily.
Easily is the
All
key
right.
to me.
So for us, what we wanted to do is Beermkr is both idiot proof. It can be the Keurig of beer. You can just plug in a kit, don't use your brain, delicious beer comes out the other end. Or you can customize everything. You could add honey, you could add maple syrup, you can adjust your fermentation times. Like this has more controls than most basement systems have anyway. More monitoring, more everything. So like it is we want it to be the Keurig of beer to the people who want the Keurig of beer, but then also be this phenomenally high-powered tool for homebrewers to make pilot batches, to do risk-free experimentation, to make some crazy stuff that they don't want to throw away 5 gallons of disgusting beer. They want to go for it. So that, yeah, sure. To half of the population, we would love to be the Keurig of beer.
I immediately, and maybe this could be offensive also, but I immediately put you guys in the category of like pellet grills and pellet smokers, if you guys are familiar with those, because there's a lot of traditional, really purists that when it comes to, smoking meats and doing brisket and pork butts and things, that, the stick burner is the way to go, or, you got your charcoal, Weber going and smoking on that thing.
Devin Mac.
You check out the comments. We're going to war with those guys.
Okay.
so
because this offends people, man.
But for me,
progress.
but exactly. But for me, and the reason they're so popular is like, I really like the idea that I can fill a hopper with wood pellets and set a temperature of 225 and make fantastic brisket without the constant, holding the hand of the machine and the wood and getting dirty, and all that stuff is all thrown out the window, and you're making an incredibly precise product and a well-done product with very limited effort. And I feel like that's in the same vein almost, where of course there's going to be the traditionalist or the purist that'll say, I could never do it that way. I want to, get the paddle out and, do the old school thing. But at the same time, this is for sure just the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, we've gotten people saying you're taking the craft out of craft brewing, and I would go so far as to say no, we're taking the labor out of craft brewing. Like, you still are crafting your beer. You have total control over what that end product is, and I think that's where the delineation becomes. I mean, like the Traeger and the smokers, right?
Yeah,
you get more control over it, and you can produce a better product because of those degrees of control that you have.
Yeah, and I guess the only real argument for the Keurig thing is the true Keurig of beer would be extract, and it would come right out the other end, and you'd be drinking bubbly yellow water that has booze in it and kind of tastes like beer. And those people have tried it, and it's not good. Thanks, John. John goes to battle in the comments sometimes too for us. But it's obviously there are some people we're never going to win over, and that's cool. But I think if they knew where we were coming from, and where Aaron comes from, like comes from a place of like true love for craft beer and craft brewing and home brewing, and we're not trying to ruin it. If anything, we're trying to bring more freedom as a brewer, more people into brewing, more flavors into brewing. Like, if anything, we think this could push beer in an exciting direction.
It's amazing. We were at the GABF a couple of years ago, and we've been, one guy came up to me and was like, so tell me how this thing works. And I, went through the pitch with him, and he was floored. He's like, I have this $5,000 brew setup in my basement, all stainless fermenters, pumps, temperature control, glycol chillers. I haven't used it in a year. I want to brew, but my life is so busy, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And he was immediately sold, and he bought one. And he's like, I just want to keep brewing. And when I find a recipe on here, and when I tweak enough, I'm going to move it over to my big system when I finally find that I have, an afternoon to do this. And it's like, we can be lots of different things, lots of different people. And what I've really, settled on is that we're just a great tool to have in your brewing arsenal, or the very first tool to have for your very first set of brewing products in your arsenal.
Yeah. It's crazy that you think about the Mr. Beer kits, I think that's what they're called. And, it just, you get the one extract, the one recipe, it is what it is. And, I guess you could mess with hops and things like that. But, that's what I think is just so nice, is being able to really dig into what a true craft brewer wants to do and experiment. And that's one of the things I love about the Smash series is, like Brett was saying, being able to just really, I'm kind of upset because I placed an order for like 3 kits and a bunch of extra, grain and hops and stuff so I could customize things. And then the next day you came out with the Smash series. And I'm like, of course I just placed a whatever order and I'm going to have to try to get through that first. But let's talk about the maker kits, because what I want people to understand with these Beermkr kits is there's a lot of options. And what you guys do to make it stupid easy is with these maker kits. So there's a bunch of different styles of beer, and all of the ingredients are completely pre-portioned. And that's my favorite. I don't even have a kitchen scale. I'm going to end up getting one soon. But I don't have to think about anything as long as I just bring one bag out to the table. And it's just the ingredients for that beer, and you open the bag, dump it, you know what I mean, and do your thing. So there's the maker kits that you can use to brew these fantastic, thought out, pre-made recipes, but then you can customize those. Or I've seen a lot of people go to their homebrew store or order online and get a 5-gallon batch or something to make a 5-gallon kit and split it up, maybe into 4 batches to translate it into a Beermkr kit. So there's a lot of different options when it comes to actually the ingredients that you're using and sourcing.
Yeah. We never wanted to lock anyone into using our ingredients. Our goal behind this whole thing is we want to give you the freedom to do whatever you want. And then as far as pricing and packaging and simplicity of ingredients, we just want to do it as well as we can to make you buy it from us. Because like you said, just ripping open a bag and dumping in the hops, pre-making a recipe before it even shows up to your house, like that makes it super easy. You don't have to break out the kitchen scale. You're not, doing all these measurements. You can order pre-portioned ingredients on our website and just dump them in, and you're making beer.
I really like the other part of this. I'll say one of the first things I noticed about the design is there was no touchscreen or display. And that stood out to me for some reason, because even a Keurig, even your oven or whatever is showing you what's going on. And I'm like, man, you don't need that stuff today anymore. Like, everything's on your phone. You do not need, and you probably saved a boatload of money not having a touchscreen or something on, a display on the front of the screen.
We did put a button on it, though.
Yeah.
There's a button.
So the thing similar to the pellet grills and things like that, it's on Wi-Fi. You're connected to it with the app. The instructions are great. The only thing that is not really a problem, it's probably you guys do it right, but it annoys me when I'm recording videos of doing it, is every time that I start the next step, the video auto plays. So I'll open up the app and then
the Beermkr team.
Yeah.
So tired of that guy.
Voice, and
Screw
I'm
that guy.
I'm in the middle of recording and trying to show the app, and your thing starts, and I'm trying to stop it real quick and then redo that part over. But yeah, I mean, it's nice. That's just for only people maybe creating content. But if you, all the instructions are laid out so nice. But I mean, I think after brewing 2 beers, I don't even need the app anymore, because you're so used to the steps and what you're doing. And, okay, I'm adding the squeeze bar back in. I'm going to do this and that. And it's so simple that I don't even need it. But then sometimes I think I've got the Kolsch on right now, and I pitched the yeast and the hops and pushed the button, and I was like, wait, did I skip something? Like, it was just over so fast that I had to stop and think back, like, wait a second, did I follow every step? Did I do everything right? And, it did, but like, still, it goes so quickly and it's so simple that I was worried that I missed a step.
Yeah.
Once you're 2 or 3 beers in, it takes 2 or 3 minutes. It's so fast.
Oh yeah.
You better not screw up the Kolsch. You know how I feel about Kolsch's.
Yeah, from a design perspective, we also came to that thought process pretty early on, in that all of the control and the robustness and the interaction, it just meant that we had to have an app. I mean, there's so much that you can do when it comes to education, video content, suggesting articles like, so you want to make this stout with coffee? Check out this article, and it will show you here's how you do a coffee stout. It's like there's no way we could have done that on a machine interface. And you have your phone on you at all times. And what's so important about the machine is when it's time to do stuff like pitch yeast, like you've got to have that notification. So is that the chubby? Yeah,
this is the chubby with a couple additions.
Cheers to the chubby.
Let's try to show it to the camera maybe a little bit so people could get a good. Is that a chubby there?
Yep, chubby right here. Yeah, your head's a freshly poured, mine's still sticking around. So that was one of those things where it's like all of these machines that we have experimented with, we even bought a couple of Picos to play with the Pico brews. And they've got those little dials on there, and the experience of starting a brew using a 2-inch by 4-inch screen, we're using a little twist dial. It's like, I would rather have a 5 or 6-inch touchscreen where I could, reference other things and quickly scroll through. It's like, yeah, that's our phone.
Exactly. Yep.
So why do we need to overly complicate this device when we can have all of that rich interaction on the device we're already using? And so that really became it. So it became a Wi-Fi brewer, and and then we have a little button that breathes at you.
What's cool about the app too is we're going to make some little updates and little changes to the machine over the next, call it 6 months or whatever. But the app of today is not going to be recognizable in 6-8 months. There's so much room for improvement. There's so much additional information. There's so much, a more rich experience we can give you. So that's where we can really, really start to make the product and the experience so much better. Where as long as the machine's doing its job and making beer, we won't have to change too much. But the app is where we can give you a lot more.
Yeah, the app is already nice, but that's really cool. And the other thing that I like is that little button with the light, because I definitely woke up one morning and didn't notice the notification, and I walk through the kitchen and I see the light blinking, and I'm like, oh, it's time to remove the squeeze bar or something, and then it's like, oh, so that I thought was really cool, and I was really excited about, it's not just the notification on your phone. The light kind of reminds you too, and sometimes your notification bar can get pretty full.
It's one foot in the real world. Just reminds you it exists. It's alive.
Yeah. There's been a couple questions in the chat about your different kits. 2 questions. How many different kits do you have available right now? And do you have any new kits on the way out? I think I saw 2 different Belgian requests. So Belgian quad.
I just did the math. We've got 11 active kits right now. Okay. We've got 2 that are ready to rock and roll, Aaron.
Yeah, just about.
And I mean, so there's a couple ways to go about this, right? We could take the approach of giving you a zillion different kits, full choice, full whatever, but we think that that's a little overwhelming to some folks. And so we're trying to curate, trying to keep it tight, but also trying to keep it fresh. So we will absolutely be launching more kits. Aaron can talk about more what we got, especially the Belgian, because we got a lot of folks asking for that.
Yeah, lots of Belgians. We've got a lot of Belgians brewing. We've brewed a lot of Belgians. And I can tell you, in our very short term, we're looking at a Belgian wit, a dark strong, and a triple. Those are the 3 closest. So far as German beers go, we're looking at a Marzen and a Dunkelweizen. and then we're doing and working on some of the sour as well. So that's going to be, oh yeah, Jim, yeah. So Czech pills as well. So expect the pills. So the pills is going to be a summer beer. We're looking at a pills and a Mexican lager to launch early summer. We'll have more of the German and Belgians launching throughout the spring. And then so we'll have the pills plus the plus the pills, the lager, the sour, be early summer beers, and we've got Imperial IPA in the works.
The other total unknown here is that we're also starting to talk to like local breweries here, some of our favorite breweries, any listeners who have breweries, friends of breweries. We want to do a lot of kind of co-branded brewery developed kits as well, so it's not all completely on us.
Jesus, that's an incredible thought.
Yeah,
That's what I was.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just like they probably know more about beer than us. We know more about this machine, and we want to let them play with it, make some crazy recipes, do some limited launches, just get their name out to regions they wouldn't necessarily be distributed in, make a little cash. Like, it'd just be a really fun way to get awesome, fun beers from Maine down in San Diego or vice, awesome.
That was kind of where I was going to lead into. Do you make a Bell's Two Hearted clone almost and brand it with them? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Hell yeah.
Not them specifically.
I mean, yeah. If they come knocking, sure, we'll talk to them. They're all right.
They're little guys.
but I think what's really cool too is like your local brewery that only distributes in your city, state, whatever it be, or like those are the ones that we really want to jump in with, because they'll work a little bit harder. They'll put a little more effort to it, because the benefit for them to sell their beer out of state, out of area, it's a lot more. And it's a fun way. What we want to do then too is send our me and another guy, send ourselves, make a bunch of awesome content, and really introduce all of our brewers to their brewery. So it's not just like, hey, Ithaca Beer Company made a thing and you sell it in San Diego. It's like, no, we want to bring you into the brewery. We want to show you the brewers, introduce you to the brewers, put a lot of awesome stuff together. So, every time a kit comes out, we can dedicate a lot of really cool, informational, just awesome content about breweries all over the country and the world.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys are following or not, but there's a whole tech conversation going on in our chat.
Yeah,
but I'm not following.
It's kind of fun.
But I'm glad that they're doing their thing. Andrew and Scott, do your thing there, guys.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, so Simi asked about gluten-free. I've been working with one of our brewers, this guy Nate Spector. He's celiac and has been brewing quite a bit. With rice, with buckwheat. He's been brewed some seltzers. Admittedly, I haven't done much of any of these experiments with alternate grains, and he has. So he got a bunch of stuff, and we've been working together to make these things work. The first 3 or 4 were just terrible; didn't work well. The gelatinization temperatures are all different, so we started just making adjustments after adjustments, and then finally got to some pretty good results. And so I'm pretty excited to see what we can do with this. And it's ultimately going to come down to us just within the DIY section until we produce a gluten-free kit to just say I'm doing a gluten-free, here are my grains. And then you can just go with it, and it'll just be a different program that the machine runs. And, we're still early, the app is the app that we're making is still the app that we began developing a year and a half ago, when it was just 5 of us sitting in a, freaking brewing lab trying to see what people would like. And, the things out in the world, we have so much incredible feedback from people that we're working as fast as we can to fold it in. And, I saw a question about the DIY section, and that is, that's so high on the list of being able to, build in the entire realm of brewing ingredients and options, both on the hot side and the cold side. It's a big undertaking, but it's where we're going with it.
So one of the really cool questions that I got out of the Beermkr group that I thought was really cool was, everything's talking to servers. And I think that's really cool that if your unit comes unplugged or you have a power outage and it turns back on, it reconnects right to where it was. You know, you don't have to worry about stuff like that. You can move it to a different network, what have you. But you're obviously collecting some data. Does that get used? Well, the first part of the question is, does that get used to help you figure things out or you know, work on recipes and future ideas? And also, do you have any idea what the number of beers that have been brewed in Beermkr so far is?
Yes, so I did look that up before going on. So Beermkr brewers over the past 3 months have brewed around 100 barrels of beer, which is
Holy cow.
quite a lot of beer.
Yeah.
Around 3,000 gallons or so.
That's wild.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool, right? And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's still a pretty small group too. But what's really interesting about it is the average beer maker has seen about three or so batches get made on it, and which, you know, for a couple months, it's a batch a month. That's kind of nice. And if you're just getting your toes wet, I mean, it's a good, like, you know, you got 3 kits with your beer maker. You know, you make one, you drink one, you know, life gets in the way, you know, a couple weeks later, you make another one. But there are also some people who have brewed dozens. You know, they could have multiple machines, and, you know, there are quite a few batches that are getting made. So far as other data goes, we don't have a ton of visibility into like what ingredients people are using. It's just what they share with us, and that's something, you know, that would be really cool to see. It's like, how many people use Rice Krispies? I don't know. It would just be a fun stat.
That's an interesting app add-in potentially.
Yeah,
just a place to put in like, hey, what did I add? And I don't know if there's like a way to...
we want to build in to say, like, you're about to make a stout. Like, do you want to add chocolate or coffee or whatever? So we can send you that notification when it's time to add cocoa nibs or whatever it is.
Yeah,
we want to give you those tools to customize, and then if we can get the information, the more we learn, the better those beers are going to be coming out the other end.
When I did the chubby, there's not a dry hop step, so I just kind of made one and you know, put the squeeze bar back in, and then I added 4 ounces of bourbon that had been soaking in oak chips, and then there was like a couple drops of vanilla extract in there too. Nice. And I just let that sit for like, you know, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days maybe in the fridge before I added it to that step, hoping that the bourbon was going to be, you know, able to you know, to not add in any extra bacteria and things like that. And it's I don't know, I love this beer. I wish there was more bourbon. I don't know how to get that in more next time. A lot of oak comes through, which I think is really cool, and it gives it such a great mouthfeel to have that like oakiness come through, but also the beer itself has a good mouthfeel.
But I feel like the oak has calmed down. The first time we had it, I felt like all I tasted was oak.
Yeah, it tasted
but
like
I feel like
the first day.
Yeah, I feel like it's more rounded out now.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, what's super cool about that is if you were to take oak cubes, do the same soak in them, and then put them in the bag before you start your brew.
Yeah.
And then brew with them in the bag, and then they stay in the bag throughout the entire serving of it. And what that does is it allows the oak to continue the beer to continue pulling those flavors out of the oak. And because Beermkr doesn't get up to boiling temperatures, you're not pulling excess tannin out of that oak. So you can do things like that and keep it in the bag. And the brewing process sanitizes the oak already.
Yeah. So waste bag, you think?
In the brew bag.
Okay.
So then when you transfer it out to your beer tap, it stays with it and keeps oaken.
So I made a post about this yesterday, and I actually spelled waste wrong, and I got some shit for it.
As you should.
It was pretty funny.
As you should have. I saw that. I didn't.
Yeah. So
you can't stop touching it either.
I cannot stop touching the
Every
waste
time
bag.
I open my door, I squeeze the bubbles out.
Yes, I do that every time, and I'm like,
I don't know if that helps, but god damn it, is it satisfying?
Yeah, it is, and that's exactly what I do, and how I feel every time. And I'm like, am I the only one? Does anybody else open this thing and just have the urge to push those bubbles out? And
every day, and
I
flick it. Yeah.
I go up to the shoulders. I call it the shoulders, right underneath the tub.
Yeah,
you know, and I massage them a little bit to see if I can get anything to to settle from there. And man, it's a whole touching thing.
Very tactile.
It's a whole
Well, yeah,
touching thing.
you never had such a tactile fermentation before.
Yeah.
It was the way he looked at me when he said it that kind of worried me. I don't know what happened there.
I was like, as it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, this is going to sound weird.
Perfect.
And did I just do that?
What do you guys have in store for the future of this thing? What's your next steps? Is it, I know you talked a lot about the app. Is there any hardware additions, hardware changes? What's coming up in the short term future for you guys?
Did I see a filter for the brew tub?
Yes. So that is what we're waiting on to release our Imperial IPA, because there's so many hops in that beer that we've got to have a filter for the top. So, John, like you were saying at the beginning of the show, where your redwood had some sediment in the beginning, and a lot of that is because those hops that are up in your brew tub during the dry hop make it down. They collect. You essentially become these little yeast magnets in your bag, and sometimes it's hard to get them out of there, so they form extra sediment. The more hops you put in there, the more of that happens. So we've been experimenting with these filters for the brew tub, and the beers are coming out incredible. You can put in ounces of hops into the top, and
No
the beer
blockages or anything? I'm just worried about a blockage.
No, that's the
all.
great thing about the filter, is that you have so much surface area up there that when it pulls it down, it'll get there eventually. Over the course of hours, in particular because you've got this essentially a vacuum that forms.
Right.
And as the CO2 releases, it will then fill that void and then push the beer down.
And add pressure to push back down in.
You got it.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's just amazing that all of this science is happening in this little box on the counter. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's really
our engineers are really smart. Like, no joke, they're nuclear scientists and friggin' rocket scientists. Like, these guys are no, like, and that's not a joke. They're moonlighting for NASA and working for, like these guys are legit.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so wild to think, like, it's really easy to say, like, it's really easy, follow the instructions on the app, dump in your ingredients. It takes 5 minutes per step, and a week later you have fantastic beer that you made yourself and didn't have to go out and buy. And we're talking $15 for, what are we getting? A little more than a gallon of beer?
It's about a 12-pack.
Yeah, it's a 12-pack of beer for $15. And these days you can't get a 4-pack of good beer for $22. You know what I mean? That's the going rate for a good beer, and then you have a lot more pride in it, obviously. But I don't know. For me, I almost see an ROI there. You know what I mean? It's get the machine and you've paid yourself
beers.
back. Yeah, exactly.
When you really crunch the numbers, you're drinking 360 beers to pay for this machine. But you know what? Challenge accepted.
I'm going to do it anyway. Do I want to pay $20 a 4-pack or $12 or $15 for a 12-pack?
But just to rattle off some of the other things we're working on, there's been a lot of requests, and we're diving into the DIY section, trying to give more functionality, more options, more everything. We've got a lot of serious homebrewers who want is more and more control, and we're absolutely working on that. We're working on just a pretty much stacked calendar of new maker kits, ones that we developed and then ones breweries developed. We want to just tighten up every last little bit on the beer tap. Beer tap's been a little finicky, but we're releasing all the fixes to that soon, so that should be pretty much good to go in the next month. What else, Aaron? I mean, there's a bunch, man. We're a small team, so it's like we're working on one project, and then it's like shift to the next project, next project. It's constant.
Big piece is the social sharing in the app.
Oh, yeah.
And bringing that community into the app. So, we've got an incredible community on Facebook. We have a good community, but less active. Just fewer members on Reddit, but we have nothing that is like a Beermkr community, because we still almost half of the people on our Kickstarter said that they weren't on Facebook or had some problems with it. So it's like, we're already missing half the people on there. So we want to bring, we don't want to just like remake a forum and have another place to talk about stuff. We want to really bring new experiences to it, brewing clubs, brewing competitions, building beers and then sharing them with your friends and saying, hey, I just bought you a beer, man. Try this thing I just brewed. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then you can both brew the same beer. I mean, it's awesome. And then
as far as recipes, you can do community developed recipes. If we have brewing competitions, you can buy the winner's beer. Like this, there's a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
That's really cool.
yeah, so that's where we're going with it, and it's just a matter of time before we can pull all of it in, and like an app, we're going to do it little at a time, but we're putting out the biggest fires first. Obviously, the biggest one is DIY and making sure that people can actually make the beer that they want to make with this thing without having to. Like I spent a lot of time just talking with brewers on Beermkr who they're like, I want to do kettle sour. So it's like, we'll do like a different recipe on it. Like, it goes up to, mashing temps, so bring it down, you add your lacto, and then we wait. And so it's, it's a program thing. And the cool thing is I can send these recipes to people's machines, like our whole team can. So we can work with you in doing whatever you want to do on the beer. But none of that stuff has been systematized into the app yet. So we've got a ton of experience doing this. And, we're going to be building all of these features into the app just because we see that this is what people are doing and this is where they want to go with it.
It's incredible stuff, guys. I don't know.
Don't forget about Toast of the Week.
Okay. You want to do Toast of the Week?
We got to do.
Do we have a
Toast of the
sounder
Week.
for that?
No, Taylor, our producers owes us a sounder. Perfect.
How's that one?
So for Aaron and Brett, our toast of the week is we pick something, someone to give a toast to. It can be a positive toast. It can be a negative toast. Was my last negative toast people putting beer in cans that explode? Was that my last negative one?
Oh no, I just
you kicked it. There you go. Kick the stout. So I'll start. I got a good toast of the week. I have spent the last day following the saga of shrimp tails in Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Have you followed this?
No, I haven't. I've never heard of it.
Okay,
this is news to me.
This is on Twitter. Have you guys heard this?
Yeah, I heard this.
Okay. And my actual toast is to Twitter, because for this app to be free is the amount of entertainment I get from Twitter is top notch. So this guy found shrimp tails in Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah.
So he Twitter messages them and shows them pictures.
Yeah.
Yo, I found these shrimp tails. And they're like, I think it's just sugar that crystallized and hardened together. So there's this whole thread of him going back and forth. Someone that works with marine biology offered to DNA test the shrimp tails to prove that they're shrimp tails. He's like, I'll send you one, but I'm not sending you both of them because I'm keeping one of them for proof.
Yeah, for sure.
It's this whole saga. Go look it up. And then the top of this is that the guy is Topanga's husband. Remember Topanga from Boy Meets World?
Boy Meets World, for sure.
It's her actual husband in real life.
That found the shrimp tails. Wow. It's deeper.
If I told you this story 10 years ago.
Topanga's not married to what's his face in real life?
Yeah, right.
Not married to Corey.
No, he's not married to Corey.
Corey is out. He screwed up. He was not enough of a man for her.
Yeah.
So my toast is to Twitter. Thank you, Twitter.
It's amazing. I think about it all the time that, man, all the stuff that we get for free that we probably don't even realize,
so much content,
but I don't know, just GPS and Google Maps and all these things you just get for free. I mean, not really. They always say if you're not paying for it, you're the customer. It's true. Or you're the product is what they say, right?
But can you imagine if Google Maps came out and was like, yo, you got to pay 5 cents every time you look something up?
Yeah, nobody would use it.
We'd revolt.
Yes.
We'd revolt. Meanwhile, 10 years ago, we were paying $200 for a GPS that sat in your car.
Right?
MapQuest.
Right?
MapQuest directions.
We were just talking about that.
Just talking about that, printing those bad boys out.
I'd print out the directions, and then I was so dumb that I would reset my trip calculator, my trip counter on my car, on my odometer, every time that I took a turn.
You turn left, right?
Yeah, turn left, and then you get to do this road for 0.5 miles. I'd reset it and watch it and be like, okay, so it's got to be coming up. Here's the turn, reset.
I mean, I grew up in LA and we had the Thomas guide, and it's 2.5 inches thick that you stored in your, it took shotgun all the time.
Yeah. I think for me, my toast of the week has got to go to Taylor and the MBN network, because
big things.
Taylor has been working his butt off, not only for these podcasts, but he's got a brand new YouTube show, Yesterday in 5 Minutes, where he just recaps the news and trending things and whatever's really on his mind. But he's gotten so good at recording and editing and putting up clips and videos and pictures. It's incredibly entertaining. It's really easy to just consume it when you're like sitting down at your desk at the beginning of the day or before, like while you're having your coffee in the morning, and just kind of recap things. But he's just absolutely killing it online. And you guys for sure, because the last, what has it been? If I've gotten 5 beers going, it's got to be like 5-6 weeks,
yeah,
or so that I've had the Beermkr, and it has just completely. It's so easy, but has become such a big part of my life. I feel like where like I just always have something cool brewing and going on, and something fun happening, and something I'm excited to share with like my wife and like a buddy. Like, hey, come over. Like, I'll fill a growler for you or something. You got to try this. A little 16 ounce, man. It's just so much fun and amazing. But yeah. So toast to you guys and toast to my brother. Even though he's not here helping us out, he's just absolutely killing it everywhere. But toast to him. You guys have anything on your mind that you want to give a toast to?
Oh man, toast to the stim checks that came out last week. Sold a lot of machines, but we're glad to hear that Americans, their heads are in the right place when that much needed money comes out. And to the Facebook owners group, man, we lovingly call them the BOG, the Beermkr owners group, and those dudes are champions, man. They help us with our own product. We take all their feedback. We watch. We try not to participate. We try to keep our hands out.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys are the best, and they've been helping out a ton.
Great community. I always say that beer people are the best people. The beer community, the brewers. Nobody's competing. Everybody's, hey, we're all in this together. You ran out of cans. I've got cans. For your next canning run. I've got material, whatever you need.
I always say a rising ship gets stuck in the Suez Canal. I've never said that before. No, this is the first time I've ever said that.
Thank God our products get delivered on the West Coast.
But yeah, the freaking group, See Me, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. I don't know.
That guy, he's always, I think it's a guy, I don't know. But
it's a guy.
I don't know what gender that name is. It can be whatever it wants, but
and it's a picture of a beer, so you can't. You don't know.
That person is fantastic.
I saw Tom from MySpace is in there too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's old school.
It's everybody's friend.
That's awesome. All right, we ready to wrap this thing up?
Wrap it up, yo.
All right. First off, Aaron, Brett, thank you guys so much for everything, for hanging out with us, participating.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
it was an absolute blast. What are you pointing at?
Beermkr.com. Is that the best spot? Instagram? Where's your best spot?
Brett, you were nice enough, when the show was coming out, that you were going to give us a promo code. So anybody that's watching that follows us, use Might Be Brews as a promo code. You get $60 off if you get a new Beermkr kit. Is that right?
That's right. No, Beermkr. Right. Yeah, the Beermkr beer tap.
Yeah.
Yep. Do I swear I keep saying Brewmaker. I think I've said that like probably 5 times.
I don't think
it's very similar.
I don't know.
I feel like I keep tripping up. But anyway, everybody else, everybody in the comments have been fantastic. I'm seeing a lot of new names in there this time. You guys have been great. Thank you everybody for participating, for watching. Everything. You guys have been amazing. Check out mbnnetwork.com. Make sure you're following us on social media. I'm going to continue to do more beers, posting pictures and videos about the brew days and all that good stuff. But make sure you go to beermkr.com, look them up, use promo code MightBeBrews for $60 off. And you guys have a fantastic weekend. See you next time.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. All right, so I'm gonna stop recording on here. I think that's done. I'm gonna stop recording here, hopefully. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, I think we're good. All right, so we're still live, just so you guys know. That has to be we have to make sure people understand that.
We stopped the podcast recording. So you are still live.
This podcast will come out tomorrow on all podcast platforms. If you search for MBN Network, you'll be able to find this podcast and listen to it again. But the video is going to live on YouTube. We're going to post it to the MBN Network YouTube page. It's going to be on Facebook as well. This is was also streamed live to the Beermkr group. So it should be sitting there for a few days also if anybody wants to watch it. But we've definitely had people like all of a sudden, like we stop recording and we're still online. And then somebody just like pulls a bong out and we're like, oh, we're still on the internet.
Phew, they're gone.
And we can block our camera, but we can't block their camera.
Yeah. So we just got to let you guys know. But
Yeah.
anyway, thank you guys so much. It's crazy. I should have said something on the podcast, but what's going on in Boulder, man, this past week has been absolutely insane. So I know I've seen it in the Beermkr group also, people posting, man, like all our thoughts are with you guys in Boulder because that's it's just wild, man, the world we're living in.
No, that's my King Supers too. Like this, it's pretty crazy.
Oh no, is it?
Yeah, it's like
that's
$4. Yeah, whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy out there. Well, look, man, I don't want to hold you guys up anymore. You guys got to roll and do your thing. Thank you again. If I want to stay in touch with you guys and maybe, you know, as things progress and new things are coming out, you know, maybe in 6 months or so, a year, whatever, we can circle back and do another episode and do everything, what's new and what's going on. But so far, everything's been so much fun. An absolute blast. I love the product. I can't rave about it enough. So
That's
we're
great to hear. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
Like,
So
especially when someone knows beer and they're just so into it, like there's nothing better. So that's
John
awesome.
doesn't know beer.
Even know drinking it, liking it.
He does like
know?
it. Does know drinking.
yeah, I can drink the crap out of it. But but you know, it's I don't know if do either of you guys play instruments.
Yeah.
So you know, I don't know about you, and I'm not good at anything, but I've tried my hand at like guitar and bass and drums and you know, I can learn a bass tab and whatever and a guitar, you know, chords or whatever and learn a song, but like I'm not good. But I was talking to Mr. Steve about it, and like when I started to play music, you hear music differently. You know what I mean? Like when you learn to drum and you're listening to a song, you're not just enjoying the whole thing, you're picking it apart kind of. And that's how my brain works at least. And I'm like, I was telling the guys the other day, like, I'm worried that's going to happen to beer because I'm going to understand like what a beer that's got SO4 yeast, you know, is going to taste like or what to expect. And, you know, I know that I like the mosaic hops and I'm going to be able to pick things out. And like, you know, am I getting too far down the rabbit hole that it's going to change or ruin the experience? Like, I don't know.
Welcome, man.
Yeah, you know,
yeah, we're gonna keep going on this. It's everything. I mean, you begin to realize like, what is this crispness to it? And it's like, oh no, that's the English yeast strain. Like, it gets a little bit of that dry apple cider crispness to it, and it's like. And you can start picking that out in commercial beers, or like the Smash series is one of these that's so much fun because you drink it and you're like, holy crap, that's a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale because it's Cascade. Like that's all they use.
Yep.
And you know, and then you drink the Citra right next to it, and you're like, totally different,
completely different
beer. Everything else is exactly the same. And you begin picking these things out, and then you start theorizing, like, all right, my next beer, I'm going to use a little bit of this and a little bit of that and see what happens. And then, you know, you become a little dangerous in that you start knowing what's going on. And that's
what they don't want you to know.
Well, like right after I brewed the Future IPA, and I was like, oh man, this tastes so much different than the Redwood, and I know the hops and grain are a little different, but I think I'm getting. I think that whatever it is the yeast, and then a buddy. We actually did the show with them recently, but we did the Fam and Locust Lane collab, and they were releasing a beer together, and we had them on the show, and I'm tasting the beer, and I'm like, it's so familiar, and I'm like, what yeast did you guys use? And they're like, oh, it's that SO4. I was like, that's the same. Yeah, that's, you know, there's something about it that you can tell, like that it was brewed with that, and I feel like that's dangerous information. Like it's too much, you know, to have all that going on in my head, and I can't. I'm worried that I'm going to stop just like, oh, that tastes great, that I'm going to start picking it apart, but. I also need a better vocabulary because every time we like try a beer and try to review it, I'm like, oh, that's good. It's hoppy.
Poppy,
That's,
excuse
well,
me.
that's like when Aaron and I and our brewers get in a room, it's like they're all using this, like, Aaron has these ridiculous words he uses sometimes. And I'm like, I like this.
Yeah.
You know what? That's beer. That's
When
definitely beer.
When Aaron was going off earlier, man, you were saying words that I can't comprehend. And I was just thinking about Brett. Like, Brett,
I mean,
not you, Brett,
literally.
we've got a buddy
that's
Brett.
literally my job is to translate that shit.
We've got a buddy Brett. We call him Best Beer Buddy Brett, but he's a scientist. And I just know that, like, he probably followed you and was so interested in whatever you were saying.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Yeah. But
Cool.
Thank you guys again, man. That was so much fun. That was a blast. Again, thank you everybody that was watching. But yeah, let's wrap this thing up. It's a school night.
Taylor's got to go edit.
Taylor's got to edit this up and put it out on iTunes and
I hear small
Spotify.
stomping upstairs.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, you got the little ones, right?
And I mean, yeah.
This is the
It's
first
go
time with COVID we've been all recording separately, and this is the first time we've got shots and we're back together actually, like in a studio area, all
Nice,
using
congrats.
the same equipment, which is cool. It feels really good to be back. But
Welcome back.
you guys were the first ones, to record with us back in the studio. But all right, we got to wrap this thing up. I'm going to talk for another hour if you let me. So
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
thanks, guys. Appreciate
Have a good
you.
night.
Everybody
Take
have
it
a good
easy.
night. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Taylor, guess what? I'm still live because Fish is still watching. So I'm just going to sit here and look at you and stay on the internet. They left. I'm still here. Is there much flexibility with the machine to change the ingredients per batch? Fish, did you miss the entire show?
Yes, he did.
All right. So anybody that's not clear, because Mr. Steve is right that I jumped into it as almost a seasoned veteran user and didn't really explain what this is. But this machine creates a 1 gallon batch of beer, and you can buy predetermined kits so that you make a fantastic 1 gallon batch of beer. But it's an all grain brewing system, so you get the ability to add or change your grain recipe. You can change your hop recipe. They give you a pre-made kit, but you can buy stuff from like a homebrew store or order from a homebrew thing online. And what a lot of people are doing are finding clone kits. So like I'm going to try to do a Hop Hands clone kit. And if I find one online, I'm going to order it. And it's usually for a 5 gallon batch, but that means I can split it into 4 beers and or into 4 different sections. And now I've got 4 kits for the Beermkr. So thanks, Fish. Fish said I logged in to boost your viewership. He's not here for the content. He's just here to support his friends. And
we appreciate
that's
that.
really all I care about. I really don't care if you watch, as long as you like, subscribe, share, and just click the button like you did so we get 1 extra tick. That's all we need. I don't care if you watch. Just kidding. You ready to wrap things up? Taylor's looking at me like he's ready.
He's going to hit you with that cane in about 8 minutes.
Guys, make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Look up at Might Be Brews and also look up at MBN Network, like Might Be News Network. It's right here, MBN Network. But look that up. Look for this logo when you do that. And, you can follow all the content that we're doing, because obviously Might Be Brews is probably the best podcast out there, right behind Joe Rogan. But we've got Might Be News. We've got Might Be Tunes, Might Be Sports. There's all kinds of cool stuff. So make sure you're following us. But man, I'm kind of I love the way that I sound on this recording system. So I'm just gonna keep talking into it, and it's nice and loud and got some deep bass in my
2 weeks.
my headphones.
In 2 weeks, we're at Wrong Crowd.
Yes.
In Westchester.
Yeah, don't forget that. Wrong Crowd in Westchester.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Our next episode. Like I said, man, I can't even reach out to them yet. Now that this is over and we've done this,
We're going.
We're getting an email tomorrow. Let's set this thing up. We're going to start putting work into it.
I might try and swing by there this weekend just to get a lay of the land.
Yeah. Okay. Do that. I'm
Might.
going. I'm going to be out of town, but we'll figure it out.
Cool.
All right, guys. We're going off the internets. Thank you again. Everybody that participated and commented. We saw you in the chats. I tried to get everybody up on screen as much as I could. You guys were fantastic. Thank you so much. We will see you next time.